Good evening, folks, and once again, welcome to Common Sense. And tonight we will continue our discussions about town issues with First Selectman Bob Burke and his running mate, Bill Slifkin, who's the Vice Chairman of the Board of Finance. Is that correct, Bill?
That is correct.
There you go. I hope you all are beginning to pay attention to some of the issues in town, and one of the things that I think was rather striking that just recently happened, and I've never seen before in my lifetime, is I went to breakfast one day at O'Neill's, and lo and behold, the Republican headquarters was suddenly camped right next to the Democrat headquarters, and I thought that was particularly symbolic of an issue that we absolutely know to be true, but to have it actually happen and visualize itself and project itself on a local level right in front of your eyes put a whole new perspective on it. And frankly, it should cause you people to think twice about voting for either the Republican first and second selectman or the Democrat first and second selectman, because their headquarters are right next to each other. I mean, guys, do you think there's any difference between these two parties?
Absolutely not.
At the local level?
Absolutely
This year at a local level, Bob, there's no difference whatsoever. They both come from the same basic background, and they're going to, they're worried primarily over the educational side of the way we spend money in government.
Well, you know, let's drill down into that particular scenario and try and flesh out how they're different, because I think the viewers out there would like that to be more or less justified by us.
Let's look at this. You have a man that's the vice chairman of the Board of Education, and a man that's been the chairman for 7 years. He isn't now, but he's been the chairman.
You're referring to Matt Knickerbocker?
Mr. Knickerbocker, and Mr. Kravis is the vice chairman. Now, they're both headquarters. Between that, there's a boarded-up window of another store where the people can't get the window fixed because they don't have the monies. You've got, in one shopping plaza, 2 vacancies. In the main street of Bethel, you have 3 other vacancies. You just had a restaurant. The Greenwood Cafe has closed. Right. The Blue Moon gift shop has closed, and Edelman's Kitchen or La Chateau is moved out of the English block.
Moved into the
now,
Scoops.
To the best of my knowledge, I have never seen 5 stores vacant on Greenwood Avenue from the railroad tracks to Carlucci's Food Market.
Now, I know both.
In my whole life.
I know both of these parties. They're going to try and blame you for that happening.
Well, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the economic situation within the state of Connecticut and our country, our world, actually.
Bill, how else are they different?
Oh, they're really not different.
Or, oh yeah, it's a trick question.
Let me explain this, Bob. If I may come back really quickly.
Okay.
You have a superintendent of schools getting paid $18,000 a year not to take his insurance.
Right.
Now, how many people out there right now don't have health insurance?
Oh, yeah.
Because possibly they're laid off. We got a lot of people that aren't working. You know, our unemployment rate is somewhere around 8%. You know, our food pantry is becoming empty, and it's October.
Well, how about the other $160,000 or $70,000 a year that he gets in other salaries and benefits?
Well, I mean, that's a competitive salary.
That's comparable to everybody else. That's fine.
Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker for 7 years has made sure this man got bonuses.
Right.
In the public sector, you get bonuses?
Yeah.
I've done a great job. Did I get a bonus? As a matter of fact, they tried to give the selectman's position a raise this year, and I didn't want it. Now they're trying to force it on me.
Right. Well, you haven't had a raise in 2 years. But, you know, getting back to my question to Bill, how else do you find it
I think I think you have to look at, first of all, the country.
Right.
The country is in the worst recession that we've had since the Great Depression. And then you look at the commercial real estate market. That's the next bubble they say is going to happen. Because you've got $600 billion that have to be refinanced in the next 12 months. And when you realize that commercial real estate has been devalued by 50% on average, that means that if you owe $5 million on a commercial piece of property, you're not going to get a refinancement of your $5 million loan, because it's only worth $2.5 million now.
So we're going to have more boarded-up buildings.
You're going to have more boarded-up buildings. And now take that down to the lower level. They're talking about, well, we're going to develop economics and we're going to have all the...
Who's they?
Our opponents, the Republicans and the Democrats, because there's no difference between the two of them.
Right.
They have the same message. And what they're talking about is just taking revenue, what I call phantom revenue, because it's not going to happen. Because what the state of Connecticut did, they imposed a 10% surcharge on all the small businesses to try and balance the budget. But most small businesses file under LLC or Subchapter S, things like that. But if they don't file as individuals, they get hit with this 10% surcharge. So what small business is going to be out there starting another business in the next 6 months to a year? They can't afford to do it because they're taxed. Their tax rates go from 20% maybe up to 40%.
But my concern with what you just said is that your opponents, the Republican and Democrat
Absolutely
opponents,
both.
are basically stating something that they can't deliver. They're making a promise
impossible.
they can't keep. What they're saying is that we're going to control your taxes by bringing in
more revenue.
More revenue.
And as long as we collect what we did this year, you know, we should be okay. But you can't spend more than you bring in.
But why do you think their focus on cutting or controlling taxes is all about raising revenues and not just cutting costs and watching your
That's
spending?
not their mantra. That's not their purview.
For 4
What's
years,
behind that?
They don't know how to run government.
Well, isn't the fact that they're both Board of Ed candidates got something to do with this?
Well, the Board of Ed, for the last 12 years, just keeps increasing their requests, building and growing. You look at the Channel 26, which is the educational channel, has been running the Republican and Democratic debates, forums. They're not debating each other. You have...
They're promoting each slate.
Yeah. That's all they're doing.
That's politics. It shouldn't be on that
people
channel.
No, it shouldn't be there at all.
Right. So on top of everything else, we have politics being practiced by, once again, being practiced by the school administrators and the school system.
It shouldn't be done. Keep the politics out of our school. Teach our kids.
I've got another observation about this issue as we move forward. You've got two Board of Ed candidates that are clearly advocating positions that are favorable to the Board of Ed in terms of just how they construct themselves. In other words, you've got two Board of Ed candidates who are running for the office of First Selectman, but their entire agenda is skewed toward education, pro-spending sensitivities. It's not about cutting costs. I mean, cutting costs.
It's not about controlling
spending. That's a bad word in the education lobby.
Has one of them told you how they're going to pave a road, build a sewer, fix your buildings, at the same time, plow and sand, by doing that and saving money?
Well, now you're touching on another nerve. They're not giving you specifics. What they are saying,
don't know how to do it.
What they are saying is that the Democrats are saying they'll essentially reinvigorate a 5 or 10-year plan that'll tell the community or the voters what streets are going to be planned on an ongoing basis. And you can articulate on that because you've been dealing with it for 4 years.
You want me to keep? I'll give you next year's paving schedule.
Right.
I'll give you the year after's paving schedule.
It's not necessarily what's going to happen.
You lay it out, and then you find out, does your budget pass? You find out if your revenues are coming in. Because you're not going to pave roads, you'll repair roads if you don't have revenue.
Now, are these two candidates that ignorant where they don't recognize the reality of the budget process and the fact that budgets get cut down?
So.
Or are they that deceptive?
Listen.
I mean, what is it? Ignorance or
deception? There's a man running for second selectman that has seconded every motion I made and still doesn't know what we've done. And he's running against Bill and I as if he had never served.
That's bizarre. Absolutely.
I mean, it's totally bizarre.
In a way, it's truthful because he's
not
taking credit for anything.
It makes me wonder.
He hasn't done anything.
Right. Well, that's a tough one here. You'll have to talk to him
about that.
Well, you have to talk to his doctor.
Well, we'll see how the voters feel about that particular diagnosis. But getting back to reality and really getting back to the important issues, you guys get elected the day after the election, the town is run just as well as the day before the election, because there's no bump in the road, there's no change in your leadership, there's nothing. There's just, basically, you guys have a plan.
We'll still be on our paving schedule.
Right. You'll be on your paving schedule. You've got a number of things that you've got on the drawing boards in terms of finishing the sewer renovation, finishing the library. You can get, we can talk about that possibly tonight, but there is essentially not going to be a chaotic situation. You're not going to have a change in leadership, a change in administration on December 7th, and basically the town jumping off a cliff and hoping that there's a safety net at the bottom of that canyon, because you don't know what you're really going to get. And judging by the promises that both of these opponents are making, we already know it's either based on ignorance or based on deception, because you can't deliver what they're basically promising. You can't deliver a control in your taxes by generating increased revenues when no one can guarantee that, because the problem is much bigger than Bethel. Would you agree with that?
Both of my opponents lobbied and pursued a spending increase when everybody around us, and Bill being on the Board of Finance and myself being the first selectman, voted for a zero-based budget. And both of the opponents were after a 2.4% increase in the Board of Education, and insisted that it was needed. Insisted.
In this past budget process.
Yes. No teachers were laid off.
We had an economic debacle occurring,
Worse since the Depression.
and you were clearly telling them that we have to hold the
We're
line.
$1.5 million behind.
You were telling them that you were going to freeze all expenditures, and
I froze $261,000 in the town side of budget.
yeah, and despite how many
We were
times
looking for them to freeze
Right.
an additional $480,000. They
Didn't
didn't
happen.
do that.
right,
But they were able to come out with about 255, of which they spent 100 for the security system in the high school that they never spec'd in the high school. But then you had Virginia Tech, you had Columbine years ago, and Mr. Knickerbocker and Dr. Chesley absolutely said that they didn't need the security system.
When I was on the high school building committee for a short period of time, I was on a technology committee, and we attended one meeting where I basically talked about the fact that each room should have a monitoring system. So if there's an issue, an incident in that classroom, they should be able to contact somebody or communicate outside of that classroom. And they looked at me like I was nuts.
Well, they voted to
They
put
put that
6 motion
Right.
detectors in the entire school.
But each classroom has a telephone and a monitoring system now.
But what we did on the building committee,
Do they have a monitoring system in each
yeah, they
classroom?
have everything now.
Right.
We spent, I think about $180,000 putting in a
Wow.
top-notch security system, and it works very well. But one thing I wanted to say, the viewers have to understand that Bob and I are not saying we're going to cut education or anything. We're not talking about that.
Got to maintain.
We're going to maintain
your education.
the dollars necessary to have a quality education. The teachers are good, and last year with a zero-based budget, same money as the prior year, test scores went up.
Right.
So the fact that the town did not throw more money at the Board of Ed,
Right.
it didn't hurt
Right.
the children at all. They still improved on their scores.
Well, because they had $250,000 at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
And isn't that your primary beef, Bob, with the education lobby?
They
Hasn't that always
made the
been your primary
children
beef?
this year contribute $20,000.
Right.
All the kids that play ball. Boy, girl, didn't make any difference. There was pay to play this year to the tune of $20,000. You have a superintendent being paid $18,000 not to take insurance.
There's your pay to play.
There's your pay to play. Right there. They're hurting your children.
He could have just said, hey, listen,
No, he didn't. The Board of Education, if they renegotiate his contract instead of just continuing to let him have a 3-year contract, A-Rod just won the world's the pennant for the Yankees
Well,
by hitting a home run. His contract ran out.
Right.
Babe Ruth's contract ran out.
right.
You want contracts to run out, because if somebody wants to keep their job, they have a tendency to perform.
Right.
What's the advantage of performing if a man has a 3-year contract all the time ahead of him?
It's not a coincidence that in sports, the last year of somebody's contract is historically their best year.
Right.
Because they're out there, they got to make more money. That's exactly right.
They need to keep they need job security.
Right. So getting back to this point here, with respect to how these parties are so...
Do you want to vote for somebody that extends a 3-year contract and gives away insurances?
No, it's my
for your first selectman.
It's my tax dollars.
For your first selectman.
I personally give them over $11,000 a year, okay? And my big beef with the town government is I want the money spent wisely.
Right.
And what I've seen in the last 4 years is you guys are very careful about watching the pennies. The pennies, if you watch the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. Time and time again, I've seen both of you look at the dollars on a micro level. You know, you looked at it, you drilled into it, and you found savings, be it 10,000 here or 20,000 there or 100,000 there, and it all adds up after a while. Well, and that's how you control your tax increase.
Exactly
what will drive you crazy is you look.
Yeah.
This year in the budgetary process, I allowed for about almost $19 a ton for my sand. We just got sand for $14.73 a ton. I take great pride and pleasure in saving that kind of money. Right. That's $4 a ton.
It's like your money. You're treating it.
Yeah, that's already. I can tell the taxpayers out there that I've saved your money already. I am getting ready to go out under these bonding situations and refinance my sewer project that's already been bonded. Now, the good news for you people out there in Stony Hill, it's going to save you approximately $700,000.
$700,000
off the sewer project.
So in other words, they're ongoing.
That keeps your sewer project on schedule now.
Okay.
You're still on a $19 million sewer project.
Right.
You're not going to have to go back out in a bad time and borrow more money.
Oh, is that what the issue is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And plus, by restructuring this, I've done it twice since I've been in office.
Right.
Last year, I put $700,000 in the bank. That's what we did. We restructured our notes. Now, this year, God help us, hopefully, we got to go out and rebond on the high school. We're all short-term in the high school. We're going back out. You're going to get, if we're lucky, we got a 3.5% note.
So that's the secret in terms of how you guys have been able to control.
Are they talking about that? Are they talking about that at all?
It's all rhetoric. It's all big picture rhetoric.
And one of them sat with me and voted and watched things happen, and he still doesn't understand what happened.
Not one person has talked about how do we start the year $1.4 million in the hole because of the bonding of the high school. How are you going to take that $1.4 million and reduce it? What are you going to do to reduce it?
Well, what have we done so far, though? We've renegotiated some of our insurance, and we've saved a lot of money there, over $100,000 there. We're getting ready to re-roll our bonding. We're going to save $700,000 there.
And we came up with some ideas with a subcommittee on the Board of Finance that I had to, I would say we're looking at the neighborhood of a couple $100,000 that we're going to be able to save.
We're going to get resistance from the Board of Education.
Yeah, but we're going to involve them.
You haven't laid anybody off, have you?
No. I can't lay anybody off.
What's your attitude?
I can't lay anybody off on the town side. On the town side of government, you don't have enough people. We used to have 19 men in highway. I got 10.
Right.
All right. We had 6 people. We had 9 people in building maintenance. I have 6, and I have a man out, so I have 5.
We have 3 people in Park and Rec, and you really should have, based on the acreage, you should have more.
You're operating on a shoestring situation, you know, frankly.
Right.
If I get a guy hurt or I get a guy sick for any length of time, we have a problem. Right now in my public utilities, all right, and that's not really controlled by the taxpayer, that's controlled by the customer. In my public utilities, we had a death. We had a death, so we're down 1 man.
Yeah. Let's talk about some other issues that your opponents aren't talking about. The teen center. Where are we with that?
The teen center, we've gotten the grant has finally come through. We're getting ready to do the abatement process within the teen center. So we'll open back up. Now the teen center, that building, the old town hall, is an asset to the town of $750,000. In this economic climate, it may be worth $500,000. But there's another situation. But and that's something I inherited. We had two administrations before me that had the teen center in there. There's asbestos in there. They allowed children under 18 years old to be in that building. Either they were too stupid to realize that there was asbestos in there. The minute I got into office and tried to reopen the teen center and get it going, and Mr. Bartlett, who's a state representative, was the chairman of that teen center, and very much in coordination with Mrs. Hutchison. They allowed children in that building with asbestos.
Yeah. Speaking about Mr. Bartlett, recently Mr. Satkowski, your former running mate, actually criticized your very own Republican-led Economic Development Commission for not doing more with Francis J. Clark Park, and to see how ignorant he is of the issue, wasn't it Mr. Bartlett?
Mr. Bartlett that tried to stymie that.
That's tried to stop that?
Plus, you have 4 Republicans on the Economic Development Commission, and 7, that Mr. Zatkowski, I'm non-compliant. Remember Mr. Zatkowski said, I am non-compliant to the Republican Town Committee. Mr. Zatkowski sent forward with Mr. Biebel and Mr. Improda the members that are on the Economic Development Commission, including the attorney, which are all Republicans. And in 4 years, they have not been able to produce 60 acres of industrial land. The Republican Party controlled the Planning and Zoning Commission, which took the Worcester Street Industrial Park and changed it to 2-acre residential, which is now 1/4 acre. Some affordable was put in, and I worked with the Toll Brothers to buy from Mr. Michaels and Mr. Novella the property, and they are building right now 230 units. Thank God it's age-restricted or age-restricted targeted. 60% is age-restricted.
See, this is, listening to you talk, Bob and Bill, this is the thing that worries me about this election, is that we're in such dire straits economically. We really can't afford to take chances with our leadership unless there's something seriously wrong with the leadership in place right now. And there isn't anything seriously wrong with the leadership.
Public
There's
record.
nothing wrong, period, from a public record point of view.
Public record has been
wait, there
excellent
is.
and impeccable.
No, they got you on one issue, Bob. You're a meanie.
Oh, I come from the private side of life,
right.
And if somebody is not producing for you, what do you do? Do you tell them they're wonderful, or do you tell them, son, clear your desk out and go home?
Well, you warn them first and then you do it. Yeah. But, ironically, with all that, have you fired any town employees? No.
No, I've retired a few.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but retirement's fine.
Their time was due and you gave them...
No, I didn't give them a whole bunch.
No? Okay, whatever. But the bottom line is, getting back to the issue...
You have a choice. Your pension is in place. There's things you can do. You've outlived your usefulness. I think they call it the Peter Principle.
Yeah, whatever it is, yeah.
And it's time to move on.
But getting back to the point...
You need to enrich your life.
These are tough times. And to think that there's voters out there that are being talked into possibly voting for a change. Let's vote for someone that's untested, unproven.
How's your
and
change?
by the way,
how's your change been on a national level?
It's scary. It's absolutely
how's your change
scary.
been on the national?
Don't even get me started with the Obama program. I mean, you know what? He gives a great speech. He gives a lot of promises.
Articulate.
But I can't. That's not going to put food in my pot. That's not going to solve our economic problems. All that good talk.
I've come on this show for 4 years.
Right.
I've yet to use a teleprompter.
That's true. You don't have any notes on the table. Your opponents do. You've got all kinds of notes. Reams of paper.
My opponents, regardless of which one, it's
read from a script or whatever. But again, that's the point. The point is, on the day after the election, there's no bump in the road. There's no hiccup. things just continue as they are. Your administration is
I
watching.
am very non-compliant, though.
Well, non-compliant to who? To the
Republican
political...
town
Special
committee.
interests.
Right, absolutely, right. Bill,
You know, one thing that...
pearls of wisdom you want to share with us?
Well, you know, I'm concerned about the seniors.
Right.
Yeah, I know, I'm one too, but when you look at what's going to happen next year, there's no increase in Social Security next year. The House and the Senate have already passed a bill. There will be no COLA increases for Social Security in 2010. So everybody that's getting a Social Security check is not going to get an increase next year. Now think about that. So then people raise taxes. Where are they going to get the money to pay? They
Plus, the
can't
Medicare is
pay.
going to go up.
Medicare will go up a little. Social Security remains flat. We have to be cognizant of this, and we have to protect our seniors and our veterans.
You know,
We have to.
You bring up a real powerful point here, and I'm pointing at you, but I don't mean to, but
That's all right.
who controls the fee structure in this town?
The benefit structure
The
for
fees in terms of hunting licenses and all, you know, all the fees that you have to pay.
State of Connecticut.
Zoning fees.
That's the
permit-
State of Connecticut.
State of
Town
Connecticut.
Bethel.
The Board of Selectmen
Right.
mandate what
Right.
the fee structure is?
With the fee structures that are handled on a local level.
Right.
The dump,
Right.
transfer station, the parking at the train station.
Are those fees going to stay stagnant?
Well, the fishing,
What?
let me tell you about hunting.
Right.
Last year, hunting cost me $28,
Right.
hunting and fishing combined. This year, it's going to cost $100.
But the local fees, the ones that the Board of Selectmen control, what are you going to do about those fees and those permits?
I will hold them steadfast, and I will try to get a lease situation into my transfer station, because it's a gold mine where we can make money to reduce it, to ease the burden on my senior. Plus, if we're fortunate enough to be elected, the first thing I'll do, there's room to increase the senior benefit, the senior tax benefit, the exemption.
Right.
Last year, we put it to the
We've
Board
always
of
done that,
Finance. Bill voted for it.
Yep.
But it was a 4-3 vote. They only raised it $1,000. I asked him to increase it by $5,000. That would have helped enormously a whole bunch of seniors.
Well, we're running out of time here, and, you know, I just want to say this.
I'm elected. I'm going right back to the Board of Finance with a $5,000 increase on that
For the tax.
senior tax
You
abatement.
have to do that. You have to.
Somehow I believe you'll do that.
I've done it every year so far.
Absolutely.
First thing I do is, and I need to do it in November.
Yeah.
We're
Absolutely. I think we're almost done here. No? Okay. Guys, we're running out of time. Once again, all I can tell you is go to our website, Burke2009.com, and read up on us, and we'll see you next week. We've got a live show on Wednesday, October 28th. Make sure you watch that and call in as well. And watch for our flyers. Check your mail. Bye.